Robin Byro with us today. Also the chairman over at the RNC Youth Advisory Council, Brilyn Hollyhand. A pleasure to see you both guys. Welcome in.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us, Bianca.
Robin, first to you. What do you think about Hegseth, what he will be doing? You are a former Army Ranger, but we know
Yes.
a lot of the mission here is about helping recruitment, getting rid of DEI, really potentially even banning transgender military members, and these could come via executive order today.
Well, and it's interesting. I'm hoping for the best here with this nominee. I never bet against America, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's unpatriotic. So I'm hoping that this all goes well. My only issue is the banning of transgender troops. We've tried that once before. There are currently about 12,000 troops that are trans. I served beside some of these, and let me just tell you, they were some of the hardest working individuals that we had in our units. So not in a Ranger unit, mind you. I don't want my Ranger buddies coming at me. But in the big Army, we did have some transgender troops, and they really did a fantastic job.
What do you mean? Why would your Ranger, why would they be coming after you for supporting them?
Oh, no.
If that's how you feel.
Ranger, it's a different it's a different attitude in Ranger Regiment. And look, I was an openly gay Ranger, and I had my struggles, but they came to accept me. I just think that a transgender troop would have a much more difficult time in a Ranger unit than in the big Army, Bianca.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification and your thoughtful comments, because, you've served honorably, and now we have a lot of young men who maybe want to go into the military. Looking at Pete Hegseth, he's sort of out there as, a younger, more MAGA face for the Pentagon. And Brilyn, your book, One Generation Away, talked about, some of the differences you saw while you were crisscrossing the country, being on the Youth Council. How will Pete Hegseth invigorate the younger generation maybe to pursue a career in the military, which has been hard? Some of the recruiting numbers have been very, very down, and they've even weakened, the physical limitations for folks because we haven't had really healthy candidates.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Bianca. Under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, recruitment numbers were at an all-time low. Patriotism was at an all-time low. I spoke at 10 college campuses in the last month before the campaign. I saw this directly. Young people, first of all, didn't want to go serve overseas in a Kamala Harris-Joe Biden proxy war, and they also just weren't generally patriotic. But under Pete Hegseth, under Donald Trump, we've seen spikes already. We've seen patriotism go up in recent polling. We've already seen recruitment numbers go up. And this is exactly why young people elected Donald Trump. This is exactly why we have Pete Hegseth as our Secretary of Defense. You mentioned in the previous segment some of those mandates that Pete Hegseth is working against, that he's trying to get those out of there. That right there is exactly what revolutionized Gen Z, which got us to be more conservative. As we grew up during COVID, we were the class that was in middle school during COVID. We've seen the vaccine mandates. We've seen the mask mandates. We voted against that, and that's why we want Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. That's why we want Donald Trump as the President of the United States. Pete Hegseth's a friend of mine. I've been texting with him throughout the whole course of this. I can't see any better patriot to serve as next Secretary of Defense. The Pentagon is about to get the shakeup it deserves, and I'm excited to see a new sheriff in town.
Well, some are not as excited, but nonetheless, he is confirmed and he's in. Yes. RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel all this week. I think it's very important that the troops who refused to take a COVID vaccine, Robin, they're now going to be reinstated. We look at what we've learned and what people have been enlightened with more transparency. RFK Jr., probably a part of what we will see, too, with some of this transparency when it comes to health. And he's been, all over talking about vaccines for a long, long time. What do you say to some of the senators who are Republican, who are voting against Trump's nominees? We say, Murkowski and Collins with Hegseth, Mitch McConnell as well.
What I say to them is good luck, because he's made it abundantly clear that any Republicans that vote against him will have primary challengers and their days will be numbered. So, best of luck.
Best of luck. Well, also, the other thing, too, Kristi Noem, who was also confirmed over the weekend, will be working as DHS Secretary. Tom Homan, we've seen a lot of the illegals with criminal records, mind you, being put on these deportation flights. I want to play a little bit of how they are reacting today over at that table called The View.
Yeah, to answer your question, which is this the immigration fix that this country wanted? I think absolutely there are certain people that wanted to see this kind of pain and destruction for a certain group or type of immigrant.
see a pain and destruction. I don't think for people like the parents of Lake and Riley, they see this as painful. They see this as, if this had happened sooner, maybe their daughter would be alive. Rachel Morin, 5 children, now with no mother. I'll let you each respond. First to you, Brilyn.
Yeah, Bianca, let me be crystal clear here. To Republican senators voting against President Trump's nominees, to the women of The View, I've got a very simple message. The Trump train is coming, and you can either get out of the way or we will continue to put this agenda out. I mean, Donald Trump accomplished more in 100 hours than most presidents have done in 100 days, and that is why the people elected him overwhelmingly. These pundits, the historians, they're going to spend countless hours, an unlimited amount of money studying how Donald Trump won this past November. I can save them all the time and the money right here and just tell you that when he said he'd make America great again, the people believed him, and rightfully so. That's how he won every single swing state. And he's been a president of promises made, promises kept, Bianca.
Yeah, and Robin, you are in Georgia, so the Lake and Riley story I know hits very close to home.
It does. It does, and let me make it clear. I'm also here speaking to you from a sanctuary city, Atlanta, Georgia. So this hits home. ICE was just out yesterday, and what I have to say is that elections have consequences. And my Democratic friends who sat at home, who gave the purity test and said that Kamala wasn't left enough, this is the result. This is what we're left with. Deal with it.
Wow. They are dealing, but it's not going too well on their side. Brilyn Hollyhand, Robin Byro, great to see you both in. Thanks for the great conversation, guys.
Thank you, Bianca.
Thank you, Bianca. Have a good week.